And so in addition to helping people understand why they should love nature, we want people also to understand that it's very practical to protect nature. Nature does really important things for people. And that's what I mean by nature's fortune. And so when we speak like academics, we call what nature does for us ecosystem services. And we talk about nature as natural capital or green infrastructure. But what we mean is nature does some very practical things for us. It provides the clean water that we need, the healthy food that we need. Nature, through things like forests, provides us protection from storms or floods. Nature provides us a stable climate. Nature provides us the rich soil in which we grow our food. I could go on and on and on. And so my book, I know environmentalists and environmental supporters, they know that the right thing to do is to protect nature, but we want more people to understand why they should protect nature. And so my book is an effort to help people understand that protecting nature is a very good deal. I used to be an investment banker, and so it's very easy for me to express this in investment terms. And in the book I argue that if we invest money in protecting nature, we'll earn very, very high financial returns. And so it's a practical argument for why we should protect nature. Here's a good example. We're doing some work with Dow Chemical Company. They're a great partner of the Nature Conservancies. And a lot of their factories are on shores, coastal shores, because it's good for transportation, that sort of thing. And so we thought, well, they must be concerned about exposure to sea level rise or more extreme weather. And so we asked their engineers, what are you going to do about storms? What are you going to do about sea level rise? And so some of the engineers said, well, we agree, we need to be concerned about that. We'll build seawalls. And as engineers, they know exactly what seawalls will do. They'll provide this kind of protection, they'll cost this much money, this is what they'll do, this is what they won't do. Engineers really understand that well, and of course they should. And so then we said, well, we also believe that restoring coastal ecosystems might be a better way to provide that protection. Coastal ecosystem investment could cost less money. The coastal ecosystems, if you take care of them, could appreciate in value over time while the seawall will depreciate. The coastal ecosystem will provide extra benefits, habitat for wildlife, recreational opportunities, etc. So the engineers said to our scientists, great, show us the data. Help us understand what an investment like that will look like. Environmentalists like the Nature Conservancy are working with companies like Dow Chemical and many other companies, and we're working with governments and engineers. And when you bring those parties together, good things happen. Sometimes people say to me, Mark, why would you work with companies that have such big environmental footprints? And I say, that's exactly why we should work with them. We don't build infrastructure at the Nature Conservancy. Companies do, and governments do. And we have to work with them, get to know them, understand the problems they want to solve, and together determine when investments in nature might be better investments than investments in gray infrastructure. In that collaboration, really good things happen. So it's early days, but the early days are producing really encouraging results. So FEMSA is the very big and important bottler of Coca-Cola throughout Latin America. Now, if you're in the business that Coca-Cola is in, it's pretty easy to help them understand that they should care about nature's ability to produce the clean water they need. And of course, they get it. And so we've argued to FEMSA that they should be a partner with us in protecting watersheds. And they are a partner. And it's a partnership that I think so far has yielded very good work. And the kind of work we do is we invest in these so-called water funds, where we work with communities, cities, or farming groups who need clean water. And rather than investing in plant and equipment to clean water that has become dirty, instead we invest in protecting the watershed to keep the water clean. It's a pretty good partnership. Early, but so far so good. They said, for what amount of investment can I obtain what kind of return? If I want to invest in forests, for example, to keep a watershed healthy, should we do reforestation and build new forests, or should we protect standing forests? What works better? What kinds of investments in forests will yield the biggest returns in terms of clean water. Now, from an old-fashioned environmental perspective, you might think, well, that's kind of a crass question. But if your goal is to mobilize industrial players, like people in the beverage industry, to invest more in nature, it's very important to have answers to those questions. And that's why working with business can be very good. So they're pushing us hard to be more precise about returns on investment, and I think that's very healthy. Some of our friends in the environmental space like to spend a lot of their time, it's kind of like they have like a debating club approach to protecting nature, and they want to debate and talk about the different pros and cons of things. There's a real valuable role for that, but that's not my job. I'm not an intellectual. I'm not running a university or a think tank. You could say the Nature Conservancy is a do tank. We're in the job, I said, of protecting nature to protect life. And so we've got to get things done. And so the first thing we do is protect nature the traditional way. We say, here's valuable, precious biodiversity habitat that we want to protect. We don't put a value on it. We just say, we need to protect this. And so we try to raise the resources to do this. It's expensive, though. Protecting nature is expensive and capital intensive. So we do as much of that as we can. And the good news is we have great supporters. We have individuals, foundations, governments, businesses who support us. We always want to grow that constituency of supporters and do more. That's great stuff. It's very hard to be against that. However, I think it's insufficient. In order to accomplish our goals, we have to do even more. And so I think it's additive then to also think about other reasons to protect nature. I don't think there's a conflict there. It allows us to do even more. And so if a beverage company will be persuaded to invest in protecting a watershed in order to secure clean water, but at the same time we can protect habitat for biodiversity, to me that's win-win. Yes, I had a really fortunate experience when I worked at Goldman Sachs. I had been a mainstream investment banker for more than 20 years. And then my final position before I joined the Nature Conservancy was leading an environmental effort for the firm. It's interesting how Goldman Sachs chose to build an environmental effort. Now, why would someone with my background in the private sector have something to add to the environmental movement? I think there's a couple of things I can add. First of all, I was trained as an investment banker for more than 20 years. And so I think I'm in a good position to help people think about investment opportunities and the rates of return that can be achieved by investing in nature. And to do that, one needs to be rigorous. You can't just say these things. You have to prove it through rigorous analysis that investors are accustomed to. And so that's a place where the environmental movement can improve. Second, someone with a background like mine has a lot of experience in knowing how to build relationships with leaders of businesses or governments to pursue these kinds of opportunities. So we need to be better at that. Third, I believe environmentalists have to become better at talking to people who aren't environmental supporters. I acknowledge that all of the new things we do bring with it risks. We need to make sure that those risks never turn out to be very bad. We manage our way carefully. We learn from mistakes. You need to be very humble. Most of the important things we're doing at the Nature Conservancy have never been done before. Of course, we'll make mistakes. Other people say, there's so many things we should say no to. We should say no to dams. Dams are bad. Well, dams can be bad, that's for sure. The dams also can be good. They produce clean energy. And by the way, dams are coming. Most experts expect there'll be twice as many dams in a short period of time than there are today. So rather than just say no, I think we should say how. How can we have those dams with the best environmental outcomes? By definition, that will be a gray space. The outcomes won't be ideologically pure, but the outcomes may be far, far better than if environmentalists don't engage and try to influence those outcomes. Like it or not, that's where a lot of the action will be in the environmental space going forward. I don't pretend I have all of the answers or that I won't make mistakes. That's why I always welcome criticism and good suggestions. But I believe very strongly we should be making these efforts to make progress.